Hello and welcome. This is the daily reading of Dante, one canto at a time. Today we're reading Inferno, Canto 16. I will begin with the Longfellow translation of the chapter before we get into a few brief reflections. Now was I, where was heard the reverberation of water falling into the next round, like to that humming which the beehives make, when shadows three together started forth, running from out a company that passed beneath the reign of the sharp martyrdom. Towards us came they, and each one cried out, Stop, thou, for by thy garb to us thou seemest to be some one of our depraved city. Ah me! What wounds I saw upon their limbs, recent and ancient by the flames burnt in! It pains me still but to remember it. Unto their cries my teacher paused attentive. He turned his face toward me, and, Now wait, he said, to these we should be courteous. And if it were not for the fire that darts the nature of this region, I should say that haste were more becoming thee than them. As soon as we stood still, they recommenced the old refrain, and when they overtook us, formed of themselves a wheel, all three of them, as champions stripped and oiled are wont to do, watching for their advantage and their hold before they come to blows and thrusts between them. Thus, wheeling round, did every one his visage direct to me, so that in opposite wise his neck and feet continual journey made. And if the misery of this soft place bring in disdain ourselves and our entreaties, began one, and our aspect black and blistered, let the renown of us thy mind incline to tell us who thou art, who thus securely thy living feet dost move along through hell, he in whose footprints thou dost see me treading, naked and skinless though he now may go, was of a greater rank than thou dost think. He was the grandson of the great Gualdrada. His name was Guido Guerra, and in life much did he do with his wisdom and his sword. The other, who close by me treads the sand, Tegiaio Alobrandi is, whose fame above there in the world should welcome be. And I, who with them on the cross am placed, Jacobo Rusticucci was, and truly my savage wife more than aught else doth harm me. Could I have been protected from the fire, below I should have thrown myself among them, and think the teacher would have suffered it. But as I should have burned and baked myself, my terror overmastered my good will, which made me greedy of embracing them. Then I began. Sorrow and not disdain did your condition fix within me so, that tardily it wholly is stripped off, as soon as this my lord said unto me words, on account of which I thought within me that people such as you were approaching. I of your city am, and evermore your labors and your honorable names I with affection have retraced and heard. I leave the gall, and go for the sweet fruits promised to me by the voracious leader. But to the center first I needs must plunge. So may the soul for a while conduct those limbs of thine, did he make answer then. And so may thy renown shine after thee, valor and courtesy. Say, if they dwell within our city as they used to do, or if they wholly have gone out of it. For Guglielmo Borsier, who is in torment with us of late, and goes there with his comrades, doth greatly mortify us with his words. The new inhabitants and the sudden gains, pride and extravagance have in thee engendered, Florence, so that thou weepest thereat already. In this wise I exclaimed, with face uplifted. And the three, taking that for my reply, looked at each other, as one looks at truth. If other times so little it doth cost thee, replied they all, to satisfy another, happy art thou, thus speaking at thy will. Therefore, if thou escape from these dark places, and come to re-behold the beauteous stars, when it shall pleasure thee to say, I was, see that thou speak of us unto the people. Then they broke up the wheel, and in their flight it seemed as if their agile legs were wings. Not an amen could possibly be said so rapidly as they had disappeared, wherefore the master deemed best to depart. I followed him, and little had we gone before the sound of water was so near us that speaking we should hardly have been heard. Even as that stream which holdeth its own course, the first from Monteveso towards the east, upon the left slope of Apennine, which is above called Aqua Quieta, ere it down descendeth into its low bed, and at Forlì is vacant of that name, reverberates there above San Benedetto from Alps, by falling at a single leap, where for 1,000 there were room enough. Thus, downward from a bank precipitate, we found resounding that dark-tinted water, so that it soon the ear would have offended. I had a cord around about me girt, and therewithal I whilom had designed to take the panther with the painted skin. After I this had all from me unloosed, as my conductor had commanded me, I reached it to him, gathered up and coiled, whereat he turned himself to the right side, and at a little distance from the verge, he cast it down into that deep abyss. It must needs be some novelty respond, I said within myself, to the new signal the master with his eye is following so. Ah me, how very cautious men should be with those who not alone behold the act, but with their wisdom look into the thoughts. He said to me, soon there will upward come what I await, and what thy thought is dreaming must soon reveal itself unto thy sight. Aye, to that truth which has the face of falsehood, a man should close his lips as far as may be, because without his fault it causes shame. But here I cannot, and, reader, by the notes of this my comedy to thee I swear, so may they not be void of lasting favor, athwart that dense and darksome atmosphere I saw a figure swimming upward come, marvelous unto every steadfast heart, even as he returns who goeth down, sometimes to clear an anchor which has grappled reef, or aught else that in the sea is hidden, who upward stretches and draws in his feet. Dante and Virgil are still making their way around the circle of the violent, still on the edge, or within that desert with the fire raining down, on their way to the next circle. As they walk, a bunch of other Florentines approach Dante, because they recognize his clothes and they want to see how their city's doing. Because again, it's shades in hell, don't know what's going on in the world at the present. Dante answers them, and then he and Virgil continue on to a great waterfall, at which point Virgil takes a cord, a belt, from around Dante's waist and throws it down. It's a signal, and a monstrous form comes flying up from far below to meet them after it's given. There's not a ton to say here. The Florentines that approach Dante are 3 people that he knew in life. He, again, puts 3 more of his friends in hell, just to make a point. Not about them, but about sin. And yet, also kind of about them, because Dante is definitely, throughout the comedy, rebuking Florence, his city, and even his own party within the city for its mistakes, for its abuses, for its sins. I wondered as I was reading why Virgil says that he should be kind to these people, especially given what Dante's supposed to be doing, supposed to be cultivating, disdain for sin within himself. And I think I got something of an answer from Dante's response to the 3 that come to greet him. He says, when asked, tell us if courtesy and valor dwell within our city as they used to do, or have they both been banished from the place? He replies like this. A new breed of people with their sudden wealth have stimulated pride and unrestraint in you, O Florence, made to weep so soon. These words I shouted with my head strained high. I noticed that he directs his answer not to the 3 shades speaking to him, but to the city of Florence itself. He names Florence, he says, "Oh, Florence," but he also looks up, not at them, as if he's not talking to them. So I wonder if these shades are more representatives, perhaps, of Florence for Dante. If they can be shown mercy and pity and regard simply because Florence itself is not doomed yet. It's bleeding, it's in pain, his city is. It's about to go through a very rough time, but it's not too late for it to change and for it to get better. And so the normal rules concerning whether or not you can be nice to souls in hell doesn't quite apply here. That would be more symbolic than literal, of course. Since there's not much else going on in this chapter, I'd like to point out something that has been popping up again and again, and will continue to do so. The stars are mentioned again and again as a thing of beauty, a thing that one sees when one is in a good place, and something that one wants to get to. When Dante arrives in Paradiso itself, that takes place amongst the stars. And of course, these shades in hell refer to the place that they are as being without sight of the stars. And they say to Dante, when you get back up out of here and you can at least see the stars again. That one's both symbolic and literal for the story, so it's good to watch out for. These souls also tell Dante, as many others have and many more will, ask him to talk about them when he comes back to Earth, to tell their loved ones about where they are and to restore their fame on Earth. This reminds me a little bit of Achilles, who, went down to the underworld after dying, and his one consolation was the glory he would have on Earth, and that would be known by his sons and by his friends and all of their descendants. It's interesting the similarity between the soul that is in hell that has nothing else to hope for except for the glory on Earth, and pre-Christian pagan Achilles, who also doesn't have much else to hope for except once he's dead to be remembered on the earth. To think that for the ancient Greeks or the Romans there was little else to hope for except for what is in Christianity the worst possible outcome. It's very interesting. Anyways, that's all for today. See you later.